Greetings, salutations, and welcome to SportsLook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and while the words more and price usually sound like a bad combination, tonight they're going to be a good combination because we're going to have Vasha Moore from Greyhound women's basketball. We're going to have Riley Price, the head coach of Greyhound men's baseball. I'm going to finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Greyhound Track and Field had the Lone Star Conference Indoor Championships last weekend. For the Greyhound guys, they finished in sixth place. The Greyhound ladies finished in seventh, but they did have one individual champ, Roselle Scarlett, in the 60-meter dash. Greyhound baseball, they swept a weekend series against New Mexico Highlands. More will be said about that in a couple of minutes. Greyhound softball, they swept St. Mary's. The Greyhound ladies now 5-1 in conference play. Greyhound ladies, they beat St. Mary's. They clinched fourth place in the Lone Star Conference postseason tournament. Greyhound guys unfortunately lost to St. Mary's. Their fate is yet to be determined. Well, that will finish up an Eastern recap, so we'll clear the set and we'll bring in Riley Price right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and we bring to the set of SportsLook the head coach of Greyhound baseball, Riley Price. And Coach, congratulations, Eastern New Mexico University, now the state champions in Division II in New Mexico after you swept Highlands.
Thanks, Doc.
Well, we are in the middle of baseball season, not technically in the middle, but we've played long enough to really get a sense of how the season is going. And boy, I tell you what, your guys got up to about as good a start that first weekend as you could have possibly hoped for.
Yeah, things are going okay. I would still say, my meeting with them after that first weekend was, we haven't even played our best baseball, not even close, which is to be expected weekend one. But we were happy with the results, found a way to win. Got to see some guys in some stressful situations execute, and yeah, WT, that was unfortunate. The team got the flu right at the same time. A lot of guys, banged up and a little sick. So that was a tough weekend. They played really good baseball, and then it was good to come back and be able to play Highlands and get 2 wins there. So we're just trying to take the momentum going into this weekend. But yeah, no, I think we still have a lot of good baseball to play, and I don't think we're playing quite as well as we can yet.
I've really been impressed the last 2 years. Last year, you played the #1 team in the nation, Angelo State, and you took 2 games from them. You opened up at Kingsville, which is a really tough place for our kids to play, and you took 3 out of 4. So kudos to you and your staff for getting your kids ready to play 2 years in a row.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's we preach that. You got to be ready from pitch one, and our inter squads leading up to our first game in the spring. It's really hard to replicate spring competition, but I challenge our guys to put themselves in that mindset. That way, when they are in conference play right off the bat, like this conference does, is that you got to be ready.
So, Coach, talk a little bit about your coaching staff. Who's with you this year?
Casey Claflin, pitching coach, has done a really good job. Really good human being. I wanted to find a guy that understood just the kinetic chain of pitching and the ins and outs, and he can really dive into it. He's done a really good job. He's kind of a self product in a sense where he was a catcher and pitcher in college, which is really beneficial for him to be able to work with both. And after college, he really dove into coaching. Learned a lot about how the body moves and how to get the most out of pitchers, and he kind of self-trained himself, and he says he could still throw 90, and he's 30, so it's pretty cool to see that. And I think the product is your validator, and when it comes to him, he's been able to make some good adjustments with guys. So really happy with what he's done, and he's been recruiting his tail off, so it's been fun.
Do you have anybody else helping you this year?
Yeah, Martin Barrientos came from a school up north. He's done a really good job with the base runners. We're already being more aggressive. At times we get a little too aggressive, so we, start being smarter. But we're going to have to take some risks to be aggressive on the base pass because we do have speed, and I think our runners are really comfortable over there with him, and making him confident and giving him suggestions and things like that to be able to swipe some bags.
I really thought that you guys were going to have a good year this year because you have a number of key players back from last year's squad that just missed going to the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's an older group for sure. Um, you know, I think with what comes with that sometimes is a bunch of older guys maybe in the starting lineup try to press too much, right? Like that, I got to do it. It's my senior year. I got to be this. I got to be that. And so, just preaching to them, relax, like let it come to you. And I think that's when we've played probably not our best baseball. Recently is when guys just press too much, and try to carry it themselves. And I tell them when we win games, it's not one or two heroes. It's the whole team. We're definitely the definition of a team when we play good baseball and win. So they just take the weight off your shoulders and give it to pass the sticks and give it to the next guy.
Yeah, and it occurred to me that I had the chance to broadcast for the Lone Star Conference your game against New Mexico Highlands on Sunday. And of your 8 position players, 5 of them, I think, were back from last year's squad.
Something like
I think
that.
you had third base, first base, and right field were new.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously it's a little bit easier to plan going into a season when you know a Luciano Torelli or a Gideon Tucker, guys of that nature.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk a little bit about your pitching staff. Who's back from last year? Who's new?
Well, we got Rubio. We just talked about him. He's back. He's done a really good job out of the pen for us. Lopez is back. Gosh, Mooney's back. He didn't pitch last year. He kind of rehabbed all year, and he's done a pretty good job. And we have a lot of guys in the pen. Rios. We got a pretty deep pitching staff and a deep bullpen. We're just challenging them to find more consistency. Our velos have fluctuated, and we just preach intent. Like we got to keep, saying hit me, and throw with full intent. Whether you last 1 inning or you last 7, we got to have that mentality going in. And again, just like the offense, we do have a lot of talented arms, so we just got to trust each other. And if it's not your day and you only last 1 inning, just give it to the next guy because that's going to keep us in the game as well. So.
I was smiling because long before you were born, a really successful manager for the New York Yankees was Casey Stengel, and he started a guy in a World Series game and just gave him the ball and said, throw as hard as you can for as long as you can.
Yeah.
So some things in baseball never go out of style.
That's right.
One thing I have seen different in my life is back in the day, every pitcher got his sign by the catcher flashing signals. A lot of teams have gone to, you call something out from the dugout, you look at a wristband. So what's the advantage of one over the other?
Time. So as soon as they've made the changes to the pitch clock being 20 seconds and the time between innings and things like that, it doesn't allow for a catcher to go through a pitching coach to give a bunch of signs and then a catcher to relay those signs, and then if the pitcher calls it off, now you got to redo that whole situation. Whereas now it's you're able to look at something. Nope, I don't want that, or you shake, and then coach has got something in the dugout where he just programs whatever it may be in, so that it just happens a lot faster. We still don't use that. We use Coach Claflin will just signal in over a mic, and so our catcher is hooked up to it's called PitchCom, and he's got catcher's got a mic in there. So, and then he flashes signs after that.
This is just absolutely flabbergasting.
Yeah.
I consider myself a pretty close student of the game of baseball. I didn't know. That is fascinating.
Yep, catcher has an earpiece in.
Wow. I thought it was that you went to that system because you didn't want the first base coach, the third base coach stealing signs. But
well, that too. I mean, we would probably like to, start incorporating the wristband stuff. It is pretty expensive, especially if you're trying to get multiple position players to wear it as well, which can be really beneficial. Just unfortunately, it's pretty costly, and we're just going to stick with PitchCom this year, and maybe it's something we look into next year.
And let's go back to a point that, and you officially blew my mind, so it's taking me a little bit longer to get back to it. But explain to the casual viewer of this program the difference between trying to throw the ball by a hitter and trying to throw to a point of contact that's going to be disadvantageous for the batter.
We want a good combination of both. We don't want guys overthrowing, but when I express we want to throw with full intent, we should be able to still hit spots and have command while still throwing with 100% intent. That's the ultimate goal as a pitcher, because if you throw your fastball to 100% intent and you throw your curveball the same way, likely it's going to come out of the same slot. It's going to be harder for a hitter to pick up, and he'll think it's a fastball until late. So, if he's trying to slow down and baby it and, force it and push it to hit spots, now his pitches actually get worse. So, they're adding another variable that's unneeded, and sometimes we're guilty of that. When we're pressing too hard, or I got to hit that spot. You should be able to. Good pitchers do that at full intent, where you don't recognize the difference between off speed and a fastball.
Yeah, there are some pitchers in particular that are just, their release point is the same and everything, and that's why they're making millions of dollars in free agency. Talk a little bit about how much more confidence your pitchers have in pitching the ball low, because ground balls are a little bit truer hops now.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome having the turf infield, and our guys. That's what we tell them: just go fill it up, trust your defense, and that's all we can do. And no, it's been a lot better. Yeah, we had some wild hops in the past. Sometimes it'll catch a seam, and kick off weird one way or another, but. Our pitchers doing good at getting a lot of ground balls, and so far we're picking it okay. We had, again, the WT series a little rough, but at home it's pretty solid.
And of course, we are talking about the fact that you've got artificial turf at Greyhound Field. The base paths are the artificial synthetic dirt, and so that is reason enough to come out. You got to look at Greyhound Field, but if people come out to watch your team, what's the one thing you hope they go away from the field thinking about your team?
Nice win.
Okay, I like that.
For sure. The guys played hard. It was a good atmosphere. We gave them good baseball, and we showed a lot of effort and played the game the right way. We hustled. We were good examples for kids in the stands, so on and so forth.
And we will point out that this weekend they can see you guys at home. You're playing 4 games against Cameron, and what's the early scouting report on the Aggies?
Typically, they're a team that likes to hit a lot of home runs, which another positive playing on our field unless the wind's blowing out. It's a pretty deep park, but I think they're a little bit more scrappy this year. They're going to pitch it. They have some really good talented arms on the mound. It's just whether they throw strikes or not. And I think that's they threw strikes against WT in that last game this past weekend, and they won. And it just comes down to who can make the least amount of mistakes and who's going to make the other team pay for those mistakes. So we're going to continue our running game, and again, we're going to fill up the zone and hopefully we string some hits together as well.
Well, Coach, congratulations on the success. Congratulations on winning the mythical state championship in New Mexico, and best of luck the rest of the way.
I appreciate it, Doc. Thanks.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment, so we'll clear the set and we'll bring in Vasha Moore from Greyhound Women's Basketball right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and a privilege to bring to the set of SportsLook for the very first time one of the 2 assistant coaches for Greyhound Women's Basketball. We've got Vasha Moore, and Vasha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First question, where are you from originally, and what was the process that got you to the sideline at the Steve Roy Family Foundation Arena?
So I'm originally from Weatherford, Texas. What got me here to the Greyhound Arena, I actually played for Coach Blake Huber at Texarkana. And after that year, he ended up getting this job, and he brought me along with him. So that's why I'm here, and I'm grateful to be here.
I'm not sure if anybody has ever pointed this out to you or not, but the guy who used to be the women's basketball coach in Weatherford, Texas, was a guy named Dale Severson, who played for the 1969 national champion basketball team here at Eastern New Mexico
Really?
University. Yeah.
I never knew that.
You went on to have a really successful career as the head coach at Clovis High School just up the road, and then got hired by Weatherford, had great success there. So, small world.
It is a small world. That's interesting. I've never heard of that.
Dale was just about my age, so maybe he's still living in Weatherford. And if you ever go back there, say, look in the phone book. I guess they don't have phone books anymore, but they have one. But he was a great guy. So, okay, back to the hero now. So what's your association with basketball? Was that always your sport, or did you play other sports and gradually basketball became your sport?
So basketball was one of my first sports that I started playing. I actually did play other sports. I played softball when I was younger, and I also played volleyball up until about ninth grade. But basketball always had my heart, so I kind of stuck with it, and it's taken me a lot of places, and forever grateful for that.
Who were the big influences on you basketball-wise?
As far as just playing or just in general?
Just either playing or in general.
I'd probably have to say my parents for sure. Definitely, they've always been supportive in everything that I've done. I probably wouldn't be where I am without them. So they're definitely my biggest influences.
At what age? Well, let's talk first of all about why you chose to play for Coach Huber back in the day. What was it about him that said, I want to play for this guy?
So actually funny story where I actually graduated from Bethany College in Kansas. And my head coach then and Blake were actually really close friends, and he kind of pushed me to Blake. And when I talked to him over the phone, I was like, well, this sounds like a guy I want to play for because he loves to win, and so do I. And that's what we did.
And that is definitely something you can say about Blake Huber. That guy wants to win.
Yes.
So what got you to Bethany?
I actually was being recruited out of high school, and Coach Keith Ferguson, he came and watched me at a few tournaments and reached out, and just the atmosphere kind of drew me to Bethany. It was a very small town. I'd actually probably say it's smaller than Portales. So, but just the community, the friends that I made, the coach, everything about the town and the school, it felt like home.
And you obviously, I do know enough about Blake's background to know that you had a pretty good season.
Yes, we did for sure. It was, we had our trials and tribulations, but it turned out to be what we came there for. So, yeah.
And at what point in your life did you decide that you wanted to be a coach?
I would have to say it wasn't my first choice, but I actually wanted to be a physical therapist.
Mm-hmm.
But as I kind of got into the game and went through college and everything, and how certain coaches impacted me, I figured why not take that and keep moving it forward or keep giving it to the next generation. So that's kind of what drew me to wanting to be a coach.
What's been the biggest adjustment going from the court to the sideline?
Oh man, I see things completely different. Completely different. Being on the court and on the sideline, you see everything, but it's not the same as being on the court. So I think that was probably my biggest adjustment. Because on the court, I see a lot. I do, and sideline, it was a struggle for me to kind of see everything like I do when I'm playing. But we're getting there. It's taking a little time, but it's helpful, and it's kind of a struggle at times too.
And for people who have never played the game and coached the game, I did both, so I know that this is true, that it's a lot different when the game is in front of you
Yes.
on the court, but on the sideline, the game's moving laterally. It's totally different.
Yes, and I feel like on the court, things move a lot faster, whereas on the sideline, it's very slowed down. So it's, yeah.
So talk a little bit about your duties with the Greyhounds. What are you actually responsible for as an assistant coach?
Um, I'd have to say we don't really have responsibilities. We just kind of help each other. We pitch in. Our staff is very together. We sit and talk about things, but I'd say I'd say as an assistant, it's just kind of being there for the girls and kind of taking that stress off of Blake so he can focus on, the things ahead as in Frisco. I know he's more stressed about that. So, just making sure the girls are good, extra work whenever they need it, anything like that. Just whenever they need us for whatever they need us for, we're there. So
And I was smiling because it occurs to me that that's one of the things I really love about sports is that you're a young lady from Weatherford, Texas. Eric is from Albuquerque, New
Albuquerque, yes,
Mexico.
sir.
And Blake, like I am, is an Iowan.
Yes.
And so you wouldn't think that the three of you would necessarily have much in common, except for basketball.
Except for basketball, yep. And that's the great thing about the sport. It brings a lot of people together that you wouldn't even think, you would have a bond with, but you do, simply because of basketball.
Let's talk a little bit about the season to this point in time. And for people that are unaware, with your win against St. Mary's last Saturday, you clinched fourth place in the Lone Star Conference. Last year, you didn't even get to the tournament. What's the big difference?
I'd honestly have to say our team is very coachable. They come in every day, they work hard, they listen to what we have to say most of the time. Sometimes they have their days, as I'm sure any athlete does. But no, overall, they're competitive, they're athletes, they want to win just like we do. Um, and so yeah, that's been probably the easiest thing for us this year is they love to compete. So
And it's been really cool. I've had the opportunity of broadcasting virtually all of your games this year. And some games you win with Jazz Sullen, who started for you last year at point. Some games you win with Abby Holder playing the point. Some games it's Tatiana Platonova that plays the point. And the fact that you can play three different styles of ball and be successful, you're tough to scout.
it is very tough to scout because we do have a lot of different options. Tati, she slows the game down for us. Ab gets us into our offense, and Jazz likes to push the pace. So it's a very different style of play when each one of them are in, and that's also the great thing about our team is, we have multiple different pieces that we can move around and put in different places and it still be successful.
It sounds almost contradictory what I'm going to say next, but because you have clinched fourth place, I mean, you're in the top four teams in the Lone Star Conference, but I don't think you've played your best basketball yet because you haven't had the same starting lineup.
We have not had the same starting lineup. We've changed lineups almost every game, Doc. I truly have to say. But it's our girls they gel together, so it doesn't matter who we start. It's like I said, they just want to win. So that's the great thing about it.
And sometimes, as a player, I didn't really care who started. I just wanted to be there at the end of the game at crunch time.
Yep. Yep.
And I think true competitors feel that way.
And that's how they are. They know that we haven't started the same lineup, all season. So they know any spot is up for grabs, and they come in and compete for that spot every day. And it doesn't matter whether they start or whether they don't. They're just there and they want to play. They want to win. So
during the last broadcast, my good friend Jody Bailey pointed something out that I was not aware of. You don't have a single girl that's in the top 10 statistically in like any category, and yet you're the fourth best team going into the playoffs. And that just says that it's really tough to guard you and play against because anybody on your team can play.
And that's definitely true. We actually we just talked about this to our girls, the other day. We were like, everybody has scored in many different ways. They've contributed in many different ways, whether it was scoring or rebounding or assists. Everybody contributes. And our girls, they're not worried about their scoring or anything like that. They play.
And Coach, congratulations on the success you've had, and we wish you the best of luck in Frisco.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so much.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sports Look, so we'll clear the set, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Earlier in the program, we talked to Riley Price about the fact that Eastern New Mexico University swept New Mexico Highlands in baseball this past weekend. Well, earlier this spring, Greyhound softball swept New Mexico Highlands. Back in December, Greyhound men's basketball beat New Mexico Highlands. Back in December, Greyhound women's basketball beat New Mexico Highlands. And the very first football game of the year, last August, the Greyhounds beat, you guessed it, New Mexico Highlands. So for Eastern New Mexico University, they did not lose a single contest all year to New Mexico Highlands. We got bragging rights for at least 1 year. Well, that will finish up in overtime, and that will finish up an episode of Sports Look. I'd like to thank my guests, Riley Price from Greyhound Baseball and Lasha Moore from Greyhound Women's Basketball. Had a great floor crew. Mr. Kyle, once again, my director. So for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.